All right, so welcome everyone. It's Friday evening. This morning we tried to record with Filipe Eusébio. The connection was not great, so I told him, look,
Yeah.
let's do this in person. So first and foremost, for those ones who don't know this channel, I'm tackling all issues regarding global living. As you know, maybe if you're in Portugal or considering to move to Portugal, or if you invested in Portugal, there has been so much going on, and I wanted to have Filipe's opinion on many important topics. Before we start, Filipe, can you introduce yourself a bit?
I can. So my name is Filipe Eusébio. I'm managing partner at a law firm called Ana Bruno Associados, based in Lisbon, central Lisbon. Working as a lawyer already for 23 years, so quite an accumulated experience, and working a lot with immigration. Even though I'm the managing partner of the firm, immigration is a big department here, so I took the role of coordinating the department, and we are dealing, of course, with golden visa applicants, a lot of golden visa applicants, over 1,500 already, but also with other immigration programs such as D2, D3, D7, D8, with clients from all over the world. So I spend my days speaking English, trying other languages now, but struggling a bit, but speaking a lot in English to clients that come from the most diverse parts of the world. And it's been great so far. Yeah.
We've been working with you for so long at this point, and very successfully, and you are, for me, the reference person to ask these questions.
Yeah.
With Filipe, we've been addressing these topics of constitutionality of the potential new law from any angle, but I think it would be important to start with the basics, which is this morning I made a post on X, and the first basic question is, can you explain what's the actual goal of this parliament, why they're doing what they're doing?
Yeah. So we had throughout the years, this is a very old law for Portugal. It became law in 1981 as the citizenship law. It has had over the years a lot of transformations. But as we went through the years and we saw a decline in in the number of Portuguese, actually the tendency was that the law would become more favorable. It would be more easy to become Portuguese. So we saw throughout the years, like sort of not a facilitation, but a flexibility on the ability to reach out to Portuguese citizenship, to the extent that even last year, in April 24, there was one final introduction to the law, one final change to the law, to mention that you could even start counting in naturalization processes your citizenship, your years of residence towards citizenship from the date of application submission. So all of this was a tendency that throughout the years we saw the law and the legislator and people at Parliament, our representatives at Parliament, making it more flexible, giving more options to become Portuguese. Why it has changed so suddenly? I think we're all going through the world through major changes which we were not used to. Same thing happened in Portugal. To be honest, from a moderate right party as the one that we have in power right now, I was not expecting such a radical move and radical change to the law. The government is claiming that they're doing it for as a matter of cultivating the Portuguese identity and making sure that whoever applies for Portuguese citizenship has conditions to do it in terms of being identified with the country itself. I have a very different opinion about that. I think that we have been very successfully attracting immigrants of whatever type from all over the world. We live in a society which right now has full employment, and people keep coming and keep wanting to be here, which is very significant for a country that was intervened by the IMF about 12 or 13 years ago. So it was a major change. But as we were so successful, the services that we have, not only to deal with immigration processes, but also to deal with citizenship processes, did not follow through. So it was impossible for the services to keep up with golden visa applications, which is a good example. Since 2022, we have a backlog of about 40,000 applications in the system. We're talking about people that has invested heavily in the Portuguese economy, straight investment into real estate a lot until the end of 2023, but then into funds. It was a non-existent market in Portugal, and suddenly we have flourishing funds, which are propelled by the golden visa investment a lot. So I think, to be honest, as a professional, I don't know then what's on the mind of the legislator, but it comes as an answer to the inefficiency of the services, trying to make Portugal less attractive in terms of a place to migrate to, and in terms of a place where you, through residence, can access citizenship. Okay, so I think the mindset overall is that one. Influence as well, I won't lie to you, also plus the pressure that we have right now from the extreme right party that is constantly pushing this immigration speech, which is for me an absolute nonsense.
And to make probably a first distinction, well, would you say that this intervention was aimed to target specifically golden visa investors?
No, not at all. Actually, the golden visa has been in the mouth of our minister in charge of immigration as something he cherished very much. So he actually, back in June, gave an interview, I think it was in June, an interview to Bloomberg, where he would say, where he said that he would even want to make it more attractive by creating special taxation incentives.
Sweetening.
Yeah, sweetening the golden visa by creating taxation incentives for golden visa applicants and residency card holders who would shift to Portugal. So I don't think it's targeting the golden visa. I think it's pretty much a recognition that the services don't work, but instead of enhancing the services and giving more staff to them, and I don't know, acknowledging that the golden visa has brought billions of euro into the country, they had this crazy idea of shifting the citizenship law into an extreme that for me was unthinkable. You know,
I think what would be very interesting today is to perhaps unpack a few general topics first that affect all the visas, and then in my view we should focus on the maybe two different categories of all the visas. The visas on one end, and eventually the case of golden visa investors, because as we will see, they have some commonalities, but at the same time, I think, especially if things escalate, they will be subject to eventually different potential treatments or strategies. As always, for anything we're going to especially tell you from now onwards, this is not going to be legal advice for your specific case. So disclaimer, so this is not going to be edited because we don't have time, so it's going to be just our disclaimer. No illegal investment advice, of course. Filipe specifically, although he's practicing here on a daily basis, he can't assist you on a specific case.
It's good that you mentioned that. I always mention it myself. I'm of course a lawyer, so I'm the big defensor of lawyer intervention, but every case is a case, so always go to your lawyer, which may be me for many of you that are watching, but don't engage into any immigration program without having legal advice beside you, because we have a multiplicity of programs, and at the same time, if you are already in a program and have doubts on how it works, what can I do, always go to your lawyer, of course.
100%. And from my side, although I've been admitted to practice law in the Italian bar, I'm not practicing, I'm a commercial operator, so even if I will be trying to be the most objective as possible, I can't give you eventually my take could be also a bit biased, so seek your own advice. With that said, let's get into it, because there are so many topics, and the first is this legal? Is this constitutional? Is this how many layers of potential, legislation this direction could trigger in a negative way?
So I've been a lawyer for 23 years already, always dealing with the Portuguese legal system, and for me, it's unheard of that a new law would affect the specific situation of so many people without at least acknowledging it, meaning that my expectation when this whole discussion started would be that any previous cases of people applying for residency would be somehow protected. In fact, we are dealing with two different laws. One thing is the immigration law, the other thing is the citizenship law. But whenever any of my clients, and we're not talking about golden visa solely, we're talking about applicants to all the residency programs in Portugal, when they are being onboarded into such programs, first question they ask is, what's the future? What's ahead? How many times do I have to renew? And what's the final goal of this? And according to the law that we have still, because it hasn't changed just yet, I always tell my clients, well, you can expect that after 5 years of legal residency, you can apply for Portuguese citizenship as long as you meet the requirements that are in the law. So this is basic, and this creates, of course, an expectation on clients. It's not like I'm selling citizenship. I'm explaining to my clients how the process will progress over the years and what may be ahead. A lot of them, for instance, find, I don't know, irrelevant to gain access to citizenship. For them, it's more interesting, for instance, on going on a permanent residency, especially those who lose their own passport in case they apply for a second citizenship. But it comes with my job, as it comes with all the lawyers' job, to explain the clients what's ahead. So a client that entered, let's say in 2021, an immigration process like the Golden Visa, and upon onboarding him into whatever fund or whatever property he could buy back then, he would ask me, Filipe, what's my expectation? And I would tell him, well, expect a bit of a delay with immigration authorities. We're hoping for a clause in the citizenship law that will actually protect the years that you've been waiting, that you'll be waiting for the initial card. But you can expect that in 5-year time from date of initial card back then, you are able to apply for citizenship. So you have to keep on renewing. The reasons for the conditions for renewal are this and that. And clients, of course, create this expectation. I may become Portuguese in 5 years' time. It's a legitimate expectation because it's written in the law. It's not something I invented. So it's written there. And the connection with the two laws is actually obvious because the Golden Visa law, the immigration law specifically mentions that you need to maintain your investment for a minimum period of 5 years. And then we go to the citizenship law that, despite being a different law, tells me that after 5 years of legal residency, you can apply for citizenship. Is it a coincidence? I don't think so. And actually the change in April 2024 came to prove it was not a condition, a coincidence, because the legislator back then told everybody that you could start counting years from date of application submission. And this came to all of us as a recognition of the injustice that was being made on Golden Visa applicants, many of them waiting 2 and 3 years in the system to be called. So the connection with the laws, between the two laws, is obvious. And it's therefore obvious that there are legitimate expectations that any future change to the citizenship law should have protected. By not protecting them, those legitimate expectations are in any case protected by the Portuguese constitution. So my legitimate expectation in all of this as a Portuguese lawyer is that, despite the fact that our representatives at Parliament didn't see this, even though we saw all the parties, we visited all the parties, make them aware of the injustice that this was bringing, how this would clash frontally with the Constitution. They didn't care. So my expectation is that now the President of the Republic can check that, and upon sending the law, which I believe it will be the case, okay, I'm not doing any sort of futurism, but this is my belief, according to the belief I still have in our legal system, that at least the president will send it to the Constitutional Court, so the Constitutional Court can analyze the specific situation. And if it all goes according to what I would do in a normal country like Portugal, the Constitutional Court will acknowledge the absence of this clause, send it back to Parliament so it can be inserted.
And indeed, if I can tell you, so I think it would be a great moment for stopping one moment and okay, zooming out and explain to everyone in maybe clear terms, because for some people these are very familiar topics, for many they're not. What are the options, the possible scenarios right now? Because the Parliament adopted, a specific legislation. So now the ball is in the hands of the President of the Republic. Would you like to explain maybe also why this is how this system works in this way? Which are the options? And if you don't mind, a bit of the timing, that you would envision in each one of these alternative scenarios.
So our system is made of checks and balances. So we had first, it all started back in June when the government, after a ministry council, sent a proposal to Parliament to change the law. Then Parliament welcomed this document. It was about to be voted in July at the assembly, but then there was some legal opinions, and one of them actually was asked by us to Professor Miranda, and there was doubt about constitutionality, so it came down. It's still inside of Parliament to a special commission to be discussed. And then it went up again now on the 28th of October to the Assembly to be voted, and it was voted in a very similarly to what the government has proposed. Okay, next step is now that the Parliament sends this draft to the President. It will be sent between Monday and Wednesday next week. Okay. The president will then analyze it. Normally, this president, the tradition that he has is that he will listen whenever he has doubts. He's a very open president, so he will listen interested parties.
So if I may just say, because this is, Filipe is referring to the next week, which is going to be the week of 10-16 of November. So we are in middle of November 2025.
Yeah. Okay. So between the 10 and the 12 of November, the law will go to the president. And president, as I was mentioning, normally whenever he has doubts or whenever this is matters of high relevance like this one, would like to listen to interested parties. And by interested parties, it's not lobbies. It's people that are on the ground, working with the law, connected with the people. So I believe he will open the possibility of associations, lawyers, people dealing with immigration processes, could go to the palace and explain their vision about the situation itself. And then he will decide on either approving, vetoing, or sending the law to the Constitutional Court. Approving will mean that the law will go for publication, so we're talking about something very instant. But even if it's an approval, I don't think it will happen in less than about 2 weeks after the 10th or the 12th, okay? If it's a denial, a veto, it will go back to Parliament, but it's sort of a strange move because the law was already approved by Parliament by a qualified majority, and if then the Parliament again approves it by a qualified majority, then the president cannot say anything anymore. So it will immediately mean that the law will be published as is, and then final move will be to send it to the Constitutional Court. Our president of Portugal, he is a constitutional law teacher. So when I believe that when he sends I saw it already happening. So when he sends something to the Constitutional Court, he will make his own observations about it. Okay. And it will be very accurate observations because it will be coming from a teacher.
That's incredible. I didn't know it. Okay. Okay. This is a very helpful piece of information, actually. Okay. That's great.
So expectation, as mentioned, my legitimate expectation is that this constitutional law, which by coincidence is our president, will send it to the Constitutional Court with an observation mentioning that the law doesn't foresee a grandfathering clause and is therefore deceiving the expectations of these applicants, and at the same time breaching a principle of legal safety that's very, I don't know, embedded into the Portuguese legal system, meaning that the rule of law system that we live upon shouldn't allow you to go to bed one night with one idea about what to expect the next day and then to wake up in a very different reality. Okay, I have a very funny client that tells me that chose Portugal to leave because it's one of the few countries in the world that has this notion of rule of law.
Correct.
So doing something like this would be a revolution in the feeling that we have about our legal system.
100%. And if I may just say something on this, I have a academic background in ancillary matters because my focus was in administrative law and the curriculum in general of my PhD was in public law. So when I explain I have many friends, some are in golden visa investors, others are simple entrepreneurs, tech workers, or in general persons who relocated here with family under the expectation of gaining a pathway to citizenship in maybe a few years. And they ask me, but am I going to lose really this opportunity? And I started even before the opinion of Professor Miranda to say what we are hinting at right now. So for anyone non-technical listening this, I think it's important to emphasize that it is true that the parliament was, as indeed happened, capable of approving a law potentially interfering with the eventually overall constitutional balance of the country. But it's also true that if the check and balances of this democracy don't work, this is not going to be, oh, it happened. Let's forget about it. This is not going to be an easy thing. This is going to be written in the pages of the history of Portugal and in the of European Union, because this would seriously pose, in my view, a threat to the overall stability upon which the same European Union has been built. So I would like, maybe this is for later, I think there would be a series of cascade of effects at larger level. But coming back to you, would you like to, there has been this 82 pages incredible legal opinion, right? Do you want to tell a bit about the story behind what is the content? I will try to put it in the description of the YouTube video, and it's one of the elements I also felt more reassured, and that's why I posted more about these topics with more confidence. What is its weight, and what is this first of all, who is Jorge Miranda and why he wrote 80 pages of this?
So Jorge Miranda gained sort of a mythical position in the Portuguese, legal community, because actually is called the father of the Portuguese Constitution, because he was one of the key elements for us to have a constitution. He wrote the constitution, so he knows it's beyond reading the constitution, because you were in the preparation of it, so you know exactly why that clause is there and where what's the meaning behind everything that is written there. So when the governments, as I was explaining, it all started when the government sent a proposal to Parliament. And the proposal was so violent that we felt, no, we have to call Professor Miranda to at least look at it, because to us lawyers, it's shocking to our sensitivity. So let's test the sensitivity of someone that actually cooperated in writing the constitution, the Portuguese constitution. And it was for us reassuring, as well as you felt it, that we were not alone in this. So we had someone with this higher understanding of what's the Portuguese constitution, also confirming that it was not compatible with our principles, especially with these two ones that I was mentioning. I mean, the sense of legal safety that you need to have, the idea of not waking up one morning to something very drastically different to what you had the day before. And of course, the expectations that you create when you enter into whatever legal program that a state grants you, and then on the day after, the consequences of that legal program that you will have programmed. In the immigration, you may shift your life, you may sell your goods at home and come and live in Portugal under legitimate expectations that the Portuguese government gave you. The state of Portugal gave you those expectations, and suddenly they're not true anymore. So all of this was very shocking, and we got the reassurance of Professor Miranda. Immediately, we made public that we had this at hand, and it made the news. Professor Miranda finds a proposal from the government against the Constitution. And it made the discussion that was going on in Parliament. Some representative got up during the discussion and said, listen, everybody, there's a legal opinion for Professor Miranda saying that we're discussing here matters that may be against the Portuguese Constitution. So let's all refrain from keep on discussing, and let's take it back to the Commission. What happened was that a lot of other legal opinions came through. We know from other constitutional law teachers saying no, it's not a problem. There's no legitimate expectations in this case, because you cannot mix the two laws. One thing is immigration, the other thing is citizenship. So if Parliament proceeds as government intends, there will be no problem whatsoever. It won't hurt the Constitution. It won't fail the Constitutional Court test. So this is where we're at, some sort of I wouldn't call it a fight between legal opinions and legal understandings of the Portuguese constitution. What I think is that there's an agenda to change the citizenship law, which is fine. I mean, if the rules have to change, they change. What you cannot do is change it for the purpose. Okay, so that's a principle, a very basic principle, that it's being hurt with the way that things are being done. If the grandfathering clause was there, I would just shut up. Okay, I may not agree to the 10 years, which I don't, but I mean, that's a political decision. Another thing is to go and with a sword and cut these principles that we have embedded in our constitution.
100%. This is a key clarification actually I wanted to bring in, especially with regard to the golden visa investors, because what we're discussing here, for clarity for anyone, is we're not taking a position besides subjective perspectives on the political willingness. So if politically they want to adopt, it's an elected government, it's like the parliament actually, they want to legislate and establish 15 years, they can do it. What we're discussing here is a drastically different topic, which is you can change the law. It's your prerogative, but you can change the law affecting retroactively essentially the position of citizens. This is one of the key and basic foundational principles of civil society, the modern constitutions in democracies in Europe, blah, blah, blah. But to make it simple, imagine one person who invested in 2021 $500,000.
Yep.
And it's like a contract. You and then we have a contract where you pay me a certain amount of money and I do, I don't know, I realize a video for you. Okay. Now, I can't, once I receive the money and I'm under an obligation, state, well, I reassessed my family needs of this month. I don't have time because I need to take care. I'm not, with that, nobody is saying that my family needs are less important. What we are saying is that it's my responsibility, independently from changes on my side, to respect agreements.
Yeah.
That's a general principle without the need to complain.
Exactly.
That's the same story. So if an American family, as many thousands actually have done, they put money according to a specific request in good faith, you can't change the rules of the game for them, because this is objectively, besides legalities, it's wrong according to common sense. So this would be the old.
To use the same example you're using, which is a good one, which is the one I always use, it may seem that the change will imply another 5 years, but in fact it's beyond that. So an applicant in 2021 would have received this card, I don't know, 2024, 2025. He had the expectation of applying for citizenship in 2026, according to the current law that we have. And he will only be able to apply for citizenship if the law passes as is in 2034, 10 years after receiving the initial card. So we're not talking about 5 years, we're talking about 8. And then you're talking also about the time that you'll have to wait inside the registry office system to effectively gain access to your registration as a Portuguese citizen. So it's delays after delays. And we're talking in the Golden Visa about investors, people that have believed in our country to put as much as €500,000, which is being put right now into the Portuguese economy under an expectation. And that expectation cannot be defrauded, according to my view. Yeah.
And this leads us very well to eventually the kind of important question, which is, we all hope that things will eventually evolve in a positive manner. We all hope that there is no escalation, but in the unlikely and unfortunate case that this matter escalates, which means the law is effectively promulgated by the President of the Republic and therefore gets legally enacted, what does happen? And on the basis of the different categories of people, and what are the remedies available?
Yeah. So this entire moment had good things as well, because for the first time ever in my career as a lawyer, I see a movement of cooperation between law firms, which is absolutely unique.
Yeah.
Okay. So we are all connected in WhatsApp groups, informing each other what's happening, how the appointments are going, what kind of movements they are intending to do in order to protect the client. So it's beautiful because it's unique. Normally we are competitors, but here we are cooperating in trying to sort out the best solutions. That worst case scenario where everybody goes nuts and we have a law which in being published in the sense that was now just approved by the parliament, what we are all working upon is to have the fastest and most efficient way of fighting this law in court. Okay, so this would be something we would be entitled as representatives of our clients to submit claims in court. And people are operating in different angles. Okay, so
Exactly.
yeah, I cannot tell you everything because what I can tell you is that whoever cracks it, the system will replicate between all the law firms because we are in fact cooperating a lot with each other. Some are looking into collective claims, class actions with a lot of applicants inside of it. Others looking at potentially submitting applications for citizenship, getting denials and disputing those decisions in court. Others are looking more into international arrangements that Portugal has that may be breached with this change to the law. So there's a lot in being cooked right now, but what I can reassure you is that there's a beautiful moment of cooperation between law firms. We're all gathering in WhatsApp groups, exchanging ideas, sharing our views about it, and it's very, very interesting. I never saw it. I'm sort of an old lawyer already, but never saw anything like that before.
Also, an observation is sometimes, compared to different kind of forms of government and forms of states, someone could claim, oh yeah, but this is a chaotic situation. There is a lot of, in this case, of reputation at stake for Portugal. This is all terrible. It's true, but on the other hand, eventually there is also a democracy that works as eventually planned.
Absolutely,
so this is all, pushes in one direction and eventually pushes back, that are eventually trying to find a balance. But now, looking at specific cases, in your view, is it the case of a D7 visa the same of a golden visa investor?
Yeah. I mean, for the application of the law, it's exactly the same.
Yeah.
The difference is I'm normally able to get a D7 card, residency card out of a D7 process in 7 to 9 months. And the experience that golden visa clients have had over the past 4 years, it's completely different because it takes me 2, 3, 3.5, 4 years to get to the initial card. I have one client that's been waiting, is in his 5th year waiting for the initial card.
No way.
So it's complicated for golden visa applicants.
Yeah.
I don't do hierarchies between my clients.
Of course.
Okay, they're all very special for me. But golden visa clients have been tortured by the system in terms of how fast they can reach out to their initial cards. And it was awful what the minister said last week, that not the minister, director of IMA said, oh, no, we cleared now the poor people applications. We're now going to the rich people. It's not a matter of rich and poor. I have clients in the golden visa process that invested their entire savings into the golden visa program in order to be able to give another kind of future for their children. So in fact, golden visas have been mistreated, and it was time to acknowledge now with the grandfathering clause in the citizenship law that in fact these people are the most severely harmed, and if they start counting years from date of the initial card, they are over harmed with everything.
Of course, besides, I don't want to get there, but there will be so many layers and angles also for, in my view, claiming refunds eventually of fees effectively paid.
Yeah.
Potentially, and maybe a bit more, but this is going to be probably, a case-by-case analysis.
Yeah, I'm thinking also, Ale, because there's a lot of investment right now in open funds. So let's say people get mad at this and say, I want my money out.
Of course.
So go speak with the Portuguese Stock Exchange market.
We have a long list. Some investors, or actually potential ones, are neutral. They say, for me, whatever happens is okay. Let's move forward. But there are others writing either is I want to withdraw the funds, or I don't want to proceed. In our case, the majority is in any case intent, but the market already resented from June, because we know for sure that, especially in Asia, this program essentially was dead since June 2025 onwards. And I want to bring more data. On average, from 2012 onwards, Portugal attracted on average 600 million every year of investments via Golden Visa program. This means that it's going to cross, I don't remember which year, in next year, would have crossed, I think, 7 billions invested in the country. If you do some math, eventually Portugal actually has for sure already lost at least 300 million, which is eventually the equivalent more or less of half a year of uncertainty, and so far and so on. And the paradox is that these were, if there was a company, they would be already converted leads, let's call them in this way, with whom you have actually a promise. So what's the, let me rephrase, especially for Golden Visa, and then we get back to, I don't see who is benefiting out of it. What's the advantage? I can't see who is the one who wins about the situation, because once again, with the current Golden Visa model since 2023, there is no even real estate investment. So eventually the argument, I don't know, but the investment would eventually impact on the real estate market. This argument can be made.
Yeah. So for years, where we had parties in power that were more to the left, the Golden Visa, especially for the extreme left party, the far left parties, was not good. Okay. So it was an issue that it actually commonly spoken in the news. Say, oh no, we should terminate this. It's worthless. It's these people money laundering money, it was really aggressive. Okay. So when a moderate right-wing party won the election, I thought, well, we have at least, actually the parties that created the Golden Visa back in 2012 are now in power. So we'll have now calm years of attracting international investment under this route, which is a very popular route of attracting international investment. And at the same time, a legislation stability, unlike the one that we had, for instance, in 2023, where in February, the Prime Minister came to the television and said, from this day onwards, we are canceling the Golden Visas, and whenever the law is approved, it will have retroactive effects to this day. So there was in the past similar moments like this, but I was not expecting something from like this from a moderate right party. For sure. So it was really, really surprising to me. The best answer I can give to your question, which is also my question, is that there's a lot of conversation about immigration, not about Golden Visas, not about D7s or D3s, which are highly qualified professionals. And remember, we lose 1 out of each 3 university graduates in Portugal. So we desperately need brains into Portugal. So we're not talking about D7s, D8s, which are digital nomads, D3s, which are highly qualified, D2s, which are entrepreneurs, nor Golden Visas. We're talking about D1s, and especially D1s were not proper D1s. They were expression of interests applicants. So we had a program in Portugal, which for years allowed people to come in on the tourist visas, register in a portal, a lot of times submitting blank documents and applying for a residency permit. And that the print of that submission, without paying anything, the print of that submission would be as valuable as having a local residency permit, because the immigration authorities did not have time to look at thousands of applications.
The so-called manifestation of interest, right?
Exactly. Yeah. So under that program, what happened was that they completely lost control of who's in, what kind of criminal background check have we made about this person. So nothing was being done. And suddenly we found ourselves in 2023, 2024 with a problem that was already reaching a million applicants, which we didn't know. So they started processing slowly, but nothing was happening. Only this government in June 2024, created a task force that dealt with all those applications. Pending applications, when they picked up on that, were 400,000 applications, okay? And they did an amazing job of clearing all of those. But at the same time, of course, It's the political speech. They said we were not the ones who created this. It was the previous government that did it. We'll clean up the house, make this entire thing go away, and make sure that everybody is here. Will be here under legal conditions. So the change, I think, it's pretty much targeting expression of interest and not the others. But the law in Portugal is general and abstract, and whatever you apply to one, you would need to apply to all.
Which would bring me to a comment, which is I feel really sad for the fact that in order to fix eventually a huge past mistake, which I would be personally, if for what is worth, I completely see the issue, I completely see the reason why intervention is important, but in order to fix a past mistake, you are going to eventually, so essentially, if in order to save your arm, you are going to cut both of your legs, which is okay.
Sort of.
It's a theory, but I think, do you think there is awareness in whatever political forces or operators of the potential damages and how much this can backfire? Do you think there was a lucid assessment behind it, or it was maybe coming up during a moment, maybe a transitory phase of, let's call it, I don't know, misassessment of different priorities?
I'll just go back to what I said in the beginning. I think ultimately what they want to avoid is the collapse of the system, okay? Because it's so many people, so many applications. Right now, naturalization applications are not the backlog in the registry office system, okay? It has to do more with the Sephardic Jew ancestorship route that we have. There's a lot of applications pending on that side. There's a lot of grandchildren of Portuguese citizens, applications as well, and that's Portuguese by origin. So there's in fact a backlog in the registry system, but it has been clear that the backlog is not caused by naturalization processes. What I think is going to answer your question, we're trying to solve a problem that will probably exist at once people start reaching to 5 years, they will apply for citizenship. We're starting to solve that, depriving people to go to that moment, especially the expression of interest, which is a lot of applicants, nothing to do with the golden visa. The golden visa backlog was 40,000. Here, only the backlog was 400,000. Okay. Yeah. And then to solve an administrative problem, we say, we close now the door. And I don't know if they will reopen in the future. I think they must reopen in the future because we're talking about the viability of the country. So right now, all these immigrants that came under the expression of interest, which are all legal right now, they are supporting the social security system. They are supporting our natality rates. The birth of children in Portugal is sustained by the immigrant population. The jobs that no Portuguese wants to do is being done by these immigrants as well. So I mean, they can shut it down, but it will have to reopen in the future. Maybe reopen in the conditions that was opened by the left in the past. So we do a mistake. We try to fix that mistake, not looking at the entire problem in itself. And by fixing it, we may be creating a problem in the future. So there's a lot of angles to look into it. And I think as the politicians saw only one part of the problem, and a lot of the problem has to do with the increase of voters into the far right that has immigration
as a priority.
Yeah.
I see. Last question, and then we move probably, and we do a very quick, eventually diving in the questions we received this morning online on our favorite platform, which is X. Concretely speaking, again, we all hope really this doesn't happen, but let's say that for any reason we go into, unfortunately, the worst case scenario. By your experience, you've been, doing specific immigration law for 20 plus years and so far and so on in this specific country. What's the likelihood effectively of victory for, depending on who is claiming what?
On a court claim? So let's start with the constitutional court. Okay. It's always uncertain. I mean, you're a lawyer too, so when we go to court, we never know exactly what will come out of there. So
because eventually, for the constitutional court, if Portugal works as Italy, eventually you need to ask an incidental judgment in a lower court.
Yeah,
that one
it's
gets
exactly the
suspended.
same.
You go up,
But I'm still
the court,
exactly
the Constitutional Court would
Yeah.
adopt a decision, and then automatically this would become
But I'm
mandatory
still
for-
operating in the sense that Constitutional Court will, after the president consultation, rule for the need of the grandfathering clause. So that's my first expectation of the protection of.
Of course.
Second expectation, if everything goes south, and the Constitutional Court says, oh, no, I'm more in favor of the legal opinions that say that the two laws are not connected and there was not legitimate expectations at stake here, which could happen. We don't know what's coming out of the court, In that case, of course, going to court will be the option. And I don't think we even have to consider, we use the exact same system as in Italy, but eventually could even leap into the Court of
European,
European Court of Rights, of Human Rights, in order to analyze the specific situation, the specific legislation of Portugal. And Portugal is, of course, compelled to comply with whatever comes from there. But we need to exhaust, to use that route, we need to exhaust in principle the routes, the local routes that we have, the jurisdiction of our courts, and then we can
absolutely
move.
And if I can just open a quick parenthesis, because online someone brought me a few days ago, but hold on, the two laws were distinct. The fact that eventually the golden visa would have been eventually opening up to citizenship, this was only a piece of commercial information developed and distributed by private operators. And I actually argued, hold on, besides the legislative framework, in all the documentation of the public administrations, the connection was evident. So the thesis of, hold on, this connection between the two laws was only existing by, arguably sellers. No. It was not actually built by sellers, but actually built embedded in the texture of any communication guideline, operative manual, or handbook, and of the public administration, in the procedural rules. And by the way, there is also another point in my view on top of the correct ones you added, which is the same minima stay requirements. They are so far from the average in Europe that it's almost impossible to think that there was not a predefined eventually scheme or intention of not creating a facilitated pathway too. So these are all considerations that, in my view, will have a weight before courts, and we hope, of course, that this
because even if you think on, we're always talking about golden visa, but for instance, D visas, initial card has a duration of 2 years, but then the renewal has a duration of 3 years. So right there you have again the 5 years that the citizenship law requires. Everything points to the same place.
And one final point about, and you actually mentioned this to me months ago when we had a client actually that was interested in, what about the permanent residency at the year 5th? For visa, actually D3, D4, whatever, D7 visas, and for golden visa investors. How does it work?
So the application is the same. So after 5 years of having a legal residence in Portugal, we can apply for a permanent residency. And what we normally do, actually, you have here in Lisbon, you can apply when you go to renew the golden visa for the 3rd time on year 6. You can then say, no, I will go on a permanent residence. Have slightly different requirements to apply for permanent residence. For starters, the fact that you need to have an A2 Portuguese level certificate, but you can do that. There's in any case a difference. It's between the two types of permanent residency, because normally when you apply coming from a temporary residence originated in a D visa, you apply for permanent residency, and then that permanent residency has minimum periods of stay according to the Portuguese law, which is it's a 5-year card, and during those 5 years you're compelled to stay 24 months continuously, or 30 months non-continuously in a period of 3 years out of those 5. But then Article 65K of the regulations to the immigration law specifically mentions that all of those who did temporary residency with golden visa are exempt of minimum periods of stay during the permanent residency years, which is 5 years. So it's not like I've been minimizing the importance of the change to the law, but for new applicants, for instance, it's very important to tell them the truth, which is we may have a different citizenship law, and whether or not the route to citizenship still exists, which is a very common question. So nowadays, what's happening? Clients come to me and say, Filipe,
Yeah.
I'm interested in the Golden Visa program, but I heard that you're changing the law. What's happening in your country? So I say, yeah, in fact, we may have changes to the citizenship law going from 5 to 10 years, the minimum period of residency. And clients are concerned, should I then maintain my investment for 10 years instead of 5?
No.
The fund I'm investing only has a 8-year duration. What shall I do? And what I tell them, yes, you do 5 years of Golden Visa, and then you apply for permanent residency and exit from the investment that you had. Okay.
Exactly. So to recap, if I correctly understand, for eventually a D7 visas or visas not being generated because of an investment, unfortunately, you can still go for the permanent residency, but it will require after year 5 to respect some intensive and demanding residency requirements, which in case you are actually living in Portugal and you plan to live here, to be frank,
yeah,
zero problems.
That's normally the mindset of the applicants, which is relocation, because even the temporary residency has requirements of living in Portugal.
Even for someone who moved here, has a visa here, to be frank, having a PR here, even if it requires correctly to live here for other 5 years before being able to apply to citizenship, I don't think it's something extraordinarily bad in my view.
No, it's great. It's a 5-year card.
It's not, not bad at all. For Golden Visa investors, this is something that, at least from my part, I've never read yet. And besides, you and what I'm trying to write, Golden Visa investors, the whole story of, oh my gosh, I will need to keep the investment 10 years necessarily, and so far and so on. No, as per the current, law, and even with the new law change, which impacts only on citizenship, you can still apply on year 5 for the permanent residency, which is a special, quote unquote, PR, which will let you, after year 5, to essentially be free to not reside here. And this is this is a topic of critical importance in my view. Now, one last question, but this is already from the ex-actually friends. I have some, actually, myself. I'm a European. I'm residing in Portugal. Assuming this law gets enacted as is, what has happened when I can apply for?
Yeah, as an European, you can apply after 7 years. Okay.
With the new law.
With the new law. This is also something that we don't know whether it's going to be subject to appreciation by the Constitutional Court. Okay. There was in the past differentiations already, and there are arguments pro and against the differentiation. I think because the first draft of the law only mentioned Portuguese-speaking countries being able to benefit from the 7-year timeline, then they added also European citizens to it, I think to minimize the clash and a potential declaration of inconstitutionality about it. But it may be something also to be analyzed by the Constitutional Court, whether we can have differentiation on attributing citizenship based on wherever you're from. Okay,
that's great. Then let's get into it. We have a lot of different points. Some of them are, I think, interesting for many different people. So there is one, actually, Paul is asking if there are nuances or considerations for those who came to Portugal from the UK and obtained a CUE before Brexit.
Yeah. So this is a very good question, because it's actually one of the issues that is being analyzed right now. It's whether the changes that we are introducing to the citizenship law clash with the agreements that we made with the UK upon Brexit. Okay, so this is something very, very relevant, especially because if you are now applying 10 years for a UK citizen when you committed when Brexit happened, that you would not change your obligations towards the UK citizens, right there you have a breach from Portugal on the agreements that were signed with the UK. Yeah. So this is something very, very relevant, which may be subject to discussion for sure. Yeah.
For sure. Then there is another, there is actually Rick. Oh, Rick, I think this guy has a story which is, I don't remember the details, but I even wrote him because he applied is with him for 5 years, and then he invested already, and of course now he's a bit frustrated, and he's asking if it's true that eventually the golden visa investors have been put back on the queue. We already addressed this point, but I think it's good to...
So when this government started tackling the immigration problem that we had, it was not just about golden visa. They started by the expression of interest, manifestation of interest, as I mentioned. And I think they did it properly because it was the most urgent case where we had hundreds of thousands of people in living in Portugal, actually, inside of the system, not properly checked, not properly analyzed on their background, what if they were working or not, what kind of documents they submitted. So we all understood as a community here in Portugal that this was the most urgent process. And we were granted back then that this task force, once completing dealing with these applications, would start dealing with the golden visa. And then it all seemed to connect because in January 2025, IMA came to us, to the law firms that had more volume of golden visas, and explained to us that they were now tackling the golden visas. And they did these clarification sessions where we attended, where they said, please resubmit all your clients, make them into the system because we want to check which processes are alive. And until June 2025, we will clear as well the golden visas. I don't think if they were, I don't know if they were expecting that there was no resubmissions, but the fact it was, when you do an investment into Portugal through a program, you're not giving up on the program. So everybody, of course, resubmitted. I did 800 resubmissions myself of all the clients. So June became December. Back in June, they said, no, it's not going to be June anymore. It's too much. It's too much applications. So until the end of the year, you'll receive the appointments for your clients. And we did. We did, not for all yet, but we at the firm, I've received already 800. I'm still missing about 200, but I think they will come and until the end of the year, and we'll get everything sorted. So what was puzzling for me was that the minister and the director of IMA last week came and said, no, we left golden visa for last because they are rich ones, and we had to deal with the renewals, and we had to deal with the expression of interest, and only when that was cleared, we were able now to take care about the golden visas. Until the end of 2026, there will be no pending cases of golden visa. This is great, but it is awful at the same time. I sometimes ask my clients doing the golden visa, I asked them to please trust me because it's a lot of money into an unknown country. But even so, people are investing. And believe it or not, Ale, it's something that I want to acknowledge here to everybody. We should be thankful because none of my golden visa clients that I've just notified after 2-3 years waiting in line said, I don't want it. I'm not going. I've been mistreated by a country. All of them said, Filipe, I'm jumping on a plane and I'm going to that appointment.
Yeah.
Finally, this is great news. So that's still the motivation. So we should be thankful to all these people, not treating them like this, not saying the things that are being said, like we left them for last, because it goes against even the principle of why we've created this program. This program play a major role in the way we've recovered from the intervention of the IMF back in 2012. So, I mean, it's odd.
If I may, my perspective is I'm fully in for, everyone should be super free, extra free to decide, their own destiny, etc. The thing that personally I find, objectively wrong is that if you want to adopt a line of thought which belongs to a specific ideology, which is close to eventually, extreme left or whatever, for me, you are completely free of doing it. I'm nothing personal against it. I may have different ideas, but I completely respect that point. The problem is you can't onboard 600 million per year under the promise, and then you don't want to eventually, not only you want to respect your words, but you eventually want to betray those ones who didn't help you in a normal moment, who helped you in the moment of needs. So you are betraying the ones that believed in you, and gave you support when everything else didn't work out. That's objectively wrong. Then for me, besides it, everyone is free to choose it. If we knew in advance, all the operators, including us, we would have made different choices. That's it. So
before you jump into another question,
sure.
because the conversation has been around the changes and about the behavior of our politicians, I would just like to clear my view about the future. Okay?
Of course,
because I think the program is still amazing. Okay, it's still a very, very good program. It still offers a path to citizenship. We're still in the fight. Okay, we haven't given up, and we're not giving up that easily on the grandfathering clause. And we haven't lost momentum. In fact, I can tell you that I noticed a decrease in the volume of applications back in June, but still just today, I received 2 new clients. Okay, for the Golden Visa program.
Yeah, we too.
As soon as we have clearer rules, I think things will be picked up again.
But this is in my view. I'm telling you with maximum respect, because I'm not Portuguese yet eventually, so at all the effects, or at least I was not born in. So with the maximum respect for everyone, in my view, Portugal had and eventually still has an incredible opportunity besides the Golden Visa with the fishy regime or new NHR, because it was able to attract an enormous, in my view, capital in terms of both actually capital in the monetary sense, but also of talent and skill set that could make Portugal, especially on the tech side, a primary tech hub. But if the answer is, once you have the people in, the fishy, which requires, by the way, explicit approval, as you know better than me, I'm delaying you, so I bring you uncertainty on the table. Incorporating a company, managing a company account, social security, nightmare, especially for people who don't come from southern regions or civil law systems. If you add and compound all these inefficiencies, people will run away. This is the enormous opportunities. Portugal as a country, as a system, but objectively right now,
I agree, and I understand, and I hope that the government will soon see that. Okay,
especially because there are different forces, and on one side, efficient tech hub, we want to, and on the other side, or Golden Visa, attract capital, innovation, growth, and on the other side, no. We leave the Golden Visa investors because they are rich. Therefore, it's like there is always a negative moral judgment or a non-positive judgment as positive.
It's both.
It's particular.
It's both, Alan, because it falls good into some people's mind.
This guy, another guy actually who brought me, he is apparently 1 year away from the passport eligibility based on the timeline. And what can, grandfathering protection, in case of grandfathering clause, it will be included.
Of course, absolutely. That's what we're fighting for. It falls right through into the example that we gave. So he's clearly an applicant of 2021, able to submit citizenship in 2026, had that expectation, in fact, granted by the law. And now, if it doesn't turn out to have a grandfathering clause, it will probably have application for citizenship in 2034, something like that.
There is an observation from this other friend actually in remarking eventually the fact that after 4 years of waiting, you need other 10 years for the citizenship, and even after holding citizenship, you won't be able to enter visa free. He's mentioning something, I think, about the naturalized citizens of Portugal who were born in India are now being denied ESTA or US. I think.
Yeah, I haven't seen a case like that, and I have myself tested that system on the even with residents, not even with citizens. So people applying for visas to the US through the consulate of the US here in Lisbon using their residency cards, and it works. So I know the US, the change transformations are really, really fast, but so far I haven't noticed any sort of denial for applicants to ESTA that are not Portuguese by origin at all. Not yet, or at least. I don't know if it may change.
When is the latest that we should find out if D7 visa holders will be getting a grandfathering clause or not?
The same thing for golden visas. As soon as we hear from what the president will be doing, if he's going to be sending it to Constitutional Court and Constitutional Court orders Parliament to have a grandfathering, all immigration programs will be included in that grandfathering clause. Yeah.
V is asking also about European citizens. We already addressed this. 7 years would be according to the new law. Annalisa is actually remarking the fact, 3 years waiting for any sign of life, card biometrics, but she's saying, the Portuguese fund manager is doing a great job. So
yes, it's happening. A lot of applicants right now, clients of ours, are saying, well, I may as well have money in euro invested in Europe because the world changes so fast. So fund investment is going on that route as well of having a financial angle into it. Yeah.
Yeah, and funds in Portugal have also this tax neutrality, which is also very helpful. And then we have, of course, here a lot of more detailed questions. Do you want to go through some of them?
Sure. Yeah. So for the D7, right? So it's the D7, we call it the passive income visa because it's based on 4 main sources of income. Rental income that you may have, pension, of course, that you may earn from the state or from any insurance paying you pensions, dividends that you may receive from a company you're a shareholder of, and finally, capital gains from financial applications that you may have. So these are the 4 sources of income that whenever we apply for a D7, we need to demonstrate. And the amount that we need to show is actually not that high. It has a relationship with the Portuguese minimum wage, which is 870 euro per month. So as long as you get like 10,500 euro per year out of these sources of passive income, you are able to submit an application for a D7. So having this in mind, the questions here are based on whether you can use crypto gains or your crypto wallet in order to be able to apply for a D7. It's still not fully recognized by the Portuguese immigration authorities that you would be able to use a crypto wallet to show that you have capital gains. This is not what they're expecting to see. So I would expect some sort of squared approach by the immigration authorities on showing that these sources of passive income are coming from your crypto wallet and the gains that you have on that. So, but there are ways of building the exact same documents that the immigration authorities are expecting to see using that, namely by, taking those gains and applying them into, the normal S&P 500 that people are using to justify those gains, etc. The key is to be, especially on D7s, because it's a very simple, straightforward application to show exactly to the immigration authorities what they are expecting to see, and not to make it too complex or difficult. Otherwise, you'll trigger hundreds of questions from them, which will delay the application in itself. Yeah.
And can someone apply for a D2 or D7 based on trading crypto full time?
So the D2 has to do with you're an entrepreneur. So you should have a company incorporated in Portugal. You should be the shareholder and director of that company, having then declaring inside the company at least a minimum wage. If then that company is used for dealing with crypto, okay, this is the question, yeah? Yeah. It can. Yeah. I mean, there's no problems. It's not an illegal activity.
Yeah,
so
under a company, essentially.
Yeah, right. It should be under a company. Okay.
And, he's asking in general also other questions, like, for example, is it possible to get the authority answering faster to the inquiries by, for example, doing a lawsuit? I think this is something probably was, a point before this whole current problem. Yeah. I think
we had mixed experiences with going to court. Okay, so we had cases where we won, we had cases where we lost. Sometimes we won and lost under the exact same arguments. So it depended on the judge that was analyzing the case. So going to court started as we moved along the golden visa years to be an uncertain experience, and at the same time, as 500 applications were entering court each day, 500 claims were entering court. Suddenly, the answers that were given in 2 months started be given in 6, and then in 9, and then in 1 year. So it became sort of a bad experience. Right now, with the flow of the appointments, we expect that
it's getting better.
Yeah.
So what are the legal mechanisms available for a person who has been waiting for a student residency card for 3 years, but has since started working and had Portuguese children.
So if you have a Portuguese children, you should be fast on doing the reunification through your child, which is still possible. That would be, I don't know the details of the case, but according to everything that you're telling me, the fastest route would be through the children. Yeah.
Fantastic. And then he's asking if someone who filed for citizenship through Golden Visa on October 24th, 4 days before the vote, is grandfathered, etc., etc. I think we need a few specifications, right, to provide.
So citizenship through GV on October 24th.
Because it is probably confusing, the date of the approval from the parliament.
Yeah,
from the
date is going to be irrelevant. So the relevant date is the publication in the official gazette, in the official journal. So the October 24th was voting inside of the commission. Then we had another voting on October 28th. Then goes to the president. Hopefully goes to the court. And but the relevant date will be date of publication.
Yeah, if they grandfather, so it will be okay, assuming he filed on the 24th. Where does the HQA visa stand between the different types of visas in this situation?
Well, the HQA is D3 visa. And it's exactly the same situation. Everything is being treated under the exact same parameters. So everything we're talked about in terms of grandfathering or not, etc. It's the same thing for Golden Visa, D2, D3, which is HQA, D7, D8. It's the exact same thing.
Thank you so much, Filipe. We have other questions. Let me try to get into them because maybe some of them are more observations. So Chris is saying withdrawal agreements Brits. Completed 5 years of legal residency, unable to apply for permanent residency due to IMA prioritizing other cases, and because of biometric card expiring in 2027, 2 years later than accrued date. Then to compound matters, unable to apply for citizenship.
Yeah, so probably Chris is in that situation where it did the CRUE. Yeah, it did the CRUE. It's probably renewing.
Chris, send me a DM. I will reply. I will reply
so we can understand better the situation. Okay.
Yeah. So Krakra is asking, okay, has the government promised citizenship before? So this is, of course, a provocatory question.
It is. It's not. I mean, whatever you write in the law, it's beyond a promise. It's not a promise. It's a guarantee, right? So if you write it in the law, this is the rules of the game. So we never talk about promises. Even myself as a lawyer, whenever a client asks me, so look, what's ahead of me? I live with myself to. I'm not a seller. I'm just read the law and tell the clients which law is applicable to their case. Yeah,
very good point. Very good point. And of course, when I mean, maybe I use this word in a more Latin sense, it's like it's a provocative in the sense of it means for positively provoke a discussion. Okay, this was what I meant.
Yeah.
The 10 million, actually $500,000 million questions, which is what are the chances of suing to get the actual Golden Visa rules? So it is meant,
the citizenship rules. Yeah, I mean, I think it's going to become inevitable that if there's not a grandfathering clause, there one way or the other, these will all end up in court. If you ask me, Filipe, will people try to enforce the application of a grandfathering, or will try to get compensation from the Portuguese government, which is also an option, a Portuguese state saying, well, I've been defrauded, I want my money back, I want compensation for all the expenses that I had, all the missed expectations that I had. I sold my house in, I don't know, Denver, and so what's happening to me? I had that expectation, and this is wrong. Okay, so if it goes beyond being grandfather, it can be also asking for financial compensation. Yeah,
absolutely. And also there is another question which actually asking, are self-sufficient American retirees still welcome long-term? That's unclear, and therefore, I am
that's a
uncertain
very
about
good
real
point,
estate.
because all this uncertainty brings inside of people uncertainty. So I had a golden visa client, very, very special client of mine. He bought a house up north in Viana do Castelo, and he's living there, an American client. He did the golden visa, but he fell in love with the country. He bought a house here beyond the golden visa investment, which was a fund investment, and he's living here. I said, Filipe, I feel terribly disappointed with Portugal. I'm learning Portuguese. My husband is learning Portuguese. We're all very committed into this, and suddenly these guys come and change the rules. What's going on? But I'm feeling defrauded on all the expectations that I had. So the uncertainty brings this, that people looking from outside see, well,
they don't want us.
This is not a reliable place. So it goes beyond the simple change of the law. And so this client was asking me, can you guarantee to me that in 5 years, I'm going to endure the next 5 years. It's okay. I want to become Portuguese, but can you guarantee that on year 4 that I have ahead, they won't change it to 20 years now? So this is the kind of questions I started asking that I've never, ever in my life had. Okay.
And I completely agree. And this would be a longer discussion, but to conclude, and thank you so much for all your time, there are a few questions more or less all around the D7. And there is, kind of questions going in direction, hey, how does the renewal of the D7 work? What documents does the new IMA, the new procedure eventually of IMA need? Views on the D7. Do you want to do just a few?
Yeah, I mean, the D7 is very popular. It's a very easy, when I say easy, it's because it's all documents should be there already. So if you demonstrate the sources of passive income, and that's it. And then don't ever think of it as, first and foremost, as a cheap golden visa. It comes with a mandatory staying requirements. Okay, so in the duration of the card, you cannot be absent from Portugal more than 6 months continuously, or 8 months not continuously, unless you have a very good justification to breach these times, and you inform the authorities before leaving. This is the only way you can do it, okay? And then upon renewal, in fact, what we need is to demonstrate that we still qualify for the same conditions that we had when we applied. And we are noticing that renewal appointments are effectively being scheduled. So this was another problem that was solved. Even for golden visas, the renewal appointments are being scheduled. And we basically go there and show that we still maintain the requirements that according to the law we should be maintained. Then if the law changes at the end of 5 years, it's also a perfect breach for permanent residency, but that permanent residency will come with the mandatory staying requirements that we mentioned previously. Okay, I love the D7 because it's an sort of an easy application. You work based on what you already have, the sources of passive income, and then you must apply to it in the consulate of Portugal in your area of residency. In 60 working days, you should have an answer to the application from the consulate, and then and the answer will be in the form of a visa that will be stamped in the passport. In that visa, normally you would have the date of the appointment for biometric data collection in Portugal. We always go with our clients. All law firms go with the clients to the appointments. They collect the biometric data, and then up to 90 working days after that appointment, you get the residency card. Okay, so this is D7 in 2 minutes.
In 2 minutes. Filipe, thank you so much also for today. We always do these deep dives. Thanks you for hosting me this Friday evening.
No, I love
it's Friday just for everyone. It's Friday evening, 7th of November. At 6:47. Actually, at 6:47. End of the week. But this is a testament of how much we care of these topics. Besides, the momentarily, eventually, ups and downs. I think we Filipe, the firm, Ana Bruno, we, Citizenship, everyone, we're always on trying to do our best for not only clients, but in the end, I really think this thing must be fixed for everyone. There is no ultimate winner in my view if it doesn't get fixed. And I think we should get back here hopefully once we know more about the...
Absolutely. It's always a pleasure. Yeah. And fingers crossed that we will all go well. Yeah. We'll be pushing ourselves. We're trying everything to get the sensitivity of the president of at least sending it to the Constitutional Court. And when I say we, it's in fact the entire legal community. So the way I feel this is being handled outside of Parliament is amazing. It's really, really amazing because there's a momentum of cooperation between the law firms and constitutional law teachers and everybody who feels that this is a direct attack in some of the basic stuff we believe in. It's really unique. Yeah.
And to conclude, if you like this kind of information, I write weekly a newsletter about everything about global living. You will find all the links in the description. It's on my Substack, and of course, if you want, as they the good ones say on YouTube, subscribe to this. Yeah. No, actually, I'm using YouTube just because it's the simplest actually platform to push this content, which is of course super technical. I will leave, of course, the contacts of Filipe, the firm Ana Bruno, if you want to get in touch. And see you hopefully next time with
good news.
Good news.
Yeah.
Finger crossed. Let's not say that too loudly.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.